The second Miranda stepped up to the mic, I knew something was off. Her smile was tight, eyes scanning the room like she was about to drop a bomb and wanted to watch the fallout. I have exciting news, she said, facing the whole floor like she owned it. Starting today, I'll be heading a brand new initiative under our merged parent company, $50 million in rebranding, full leadership under me. Her voice got louder, firmer. As of now, we'll be phasing out certain legacy strategies that no longer fit the direction we're headed. She looked right at me when she said that. Quick note, before we go further, share which city or country you're watching from. I felt the eyes turn toward me before she even said my name. We're also making organizational changes, she added. Celia Hartman's position has been made redundant. Her services are no longer required. No warning, no meeting, no dignity. I stood there like a damn statue, holding a folder of campaign printouts I'd been perfecting for 2 weeks straight. Behind me, a couple people gasped. Not one person said anything out loud. Miranda kept going, cool as ice. Security will assist with your departure. Thank you, Celia. 2 guys in polos stepped through the back door like they'd been waiting. My mouth opened, but nothing came out. I glanced at the team I'd led on the flagship rollout, the same team that followed every insane deadline I took on for Miranda. None of them looked at me, except Rick, front desk guy, salt of the earth type. He walked up looking pissed but controlled. "This isn't right," he muttered as he reached for my badge. I handed it over with fingers that barely moved. In the lobby, I stared through the glass doors, watching rain come down like a curtain. My coat was still upstairs. I thought about going back, but then I pictured Miranda's face and just stood there instead, soaked, holding a half-empty tote bag like a loser. An Uber pulled up. I climbed in, water pooling on the seat under me. The driver glanced back, eyebrows raised. "You all right? You got streaks down your face." I looked out the window. "Maybe this is just the beginning," I said. Then I told him to drive. I didn't say a word the whole ride home. The car smelled like wet fabric and air freshener. My bag was soaked through, and the box on my lap sagged from the rain, one corner tearing open by the time we pulled up to my apartment in East Austin. I walked in, kicked the door shut with the back of my heel, and dropped the box right in the middle of the living room. The sound echoed, sharp and hollow. Junk spilled out, sticky notes, charger cords, a coffee mug that said, "Brand it or leave it," a framed team photo. That one made me stop. It was from 2 years ago, back when the rebrand campaign was just kicking off. 15 people crammed into the frame, Miranda front and center, grinning like she invented the damn concept. I was in the back, shoulder half cut off by someone's head. I picked it up, wiped a fingerprint off the glass, and just stared. We started at that company the same month. She was the loud one, the account lead with all the flashy heels and LinkedIn buzzwords. I was the quiet strategist who made sure everything she promised actually happened. Back then, she said we were going to rise together, that we were the brains and the mouth, unstoppable. I'd believed her. I really did. While she was clinking glasses at some panel in New York, I was in the office until 2 a.m., building the campaign flow for our first major client. I still remember the stale coffee and screen burn in my eyes, coding transitions while she texted me selfies from cocktail hours. But we were a team, right? I walked into the kitchen, pulled a bottle of wine from the rack, and popped the cork like I'd been waiting all day to do it. Which I had. I didn't even grab a glass. I took a long swig straight from the bottle, wiped my mouth with the back of my hand, and grabbed my laptop from the counter. The system felt like muscle memory. Log in, click the shared server, pull up the launch folder. There it was. Immersion Strategy Final. Approved for merger rollout.pdf. I clicked it open and started scrolling. My work, my frameworks, my exact phase model. And at the top of every damn page, lead architect Miranda Kellis. I blinked, scrolled again. Page after page. Not a single mention of my name. I opened the embedded presentation deck. Same thing. Every timeline, every campaign element, every client persona. Stuff I had literally built from scratch on a whiteboard and then turned into that system. And her name was plastered all over it like she dreamed it up alone. My fingers hovered over the trackpad. I closed the file and opened the metadata. My name was buried under last edited by. But even that was overwritten 3 days ago, right after I'd submitted the final rollout draft. The version history showed she'd accessed and renamed everything before uploading to the exec server. Like she'd planned this. I shut the laptop, hard. My hands were shaking, and not from the cold or the wine. I couldn't even feel my face anymore. The worst part? I wasn't surprised. I sat down on the floor, back against the couch, bottle still in my hand. She used me. She let me do the heavy lifting so she could stand on top of it. And I told myself over and over that it was okay as long as the work got done, that I'd get my moment when the time was right. But there was never going to be a moment, not with her. She didn't forget to credit me. She erased me on purpose. The box of office crap was still open on the floor beside me. I reached in, pulled out a USB drive I always kept stashed behind my keyboard, my own backups. I held it in my palm for a second, then stood up. I wasn't done yet, not even close. I went to my desk, sat down, and plugged it in. The drive lit up and opened like it had been waiting for me. I scanned folders, internal versions, UX drafts, annotated scripts. All the bones of the system were here, my fingerprints on every single file. Then I spotted something I hadn't looked at in years. Onboarding docs greater than Celia, Hartman contract.pdf. Didn't think much of it at first, just habit. But when I opened it and saw the original signature page, something tugged at me. I remembered sitting in the downtown office with the CEO, Barry Caldwell, back when the company still felt like a startup. He was the kind of guy who read contracts out loud to make sure nothing got lost in legal fluff. I scrolled through the standard stuff, compensation, equity options, non-disclosure, until I hit a section labeled Addendum A, Intellectual Property and Framework Licensing. 2 full pages. My stomach dropped. I read every word. All original strategic systems and implementation frameworks created by Celia Hartman, in part or whole, shall be classified as her intellectual property. The company retains usage rights solely through active collaboration with the creator. Any implementation or transfer of said systems requires her explicit sign-off. My hands clenched around the edge of the desk. This wasn't vague or buried, it was clear. And Barry's initials were at the bottom with a timestamp from the day I signed on. I read it again, slower this time. My heartbeat picked up, but not in a panic. Not this time. This wasn't just a screw you clause. This was leverage. They couldn't use the system without me. Not fully, not legally. I leaned back and just stared at the screen. My hands were still shaking, but for the first time all day, it wasn't from rage or shock. It was from hope. I grabbed my phone and scrolled through contacts until I found him. Brandon Klein. We'd met at a strategy boot camp 3 years ago, kept in touch. He worked in business law now, out in Dallas. I tapped his name and hit call. He picked up on the 3rd ring. Celia, it's been a minute. I need your help, I said, fast. Like, right now. Okay, talk to me. I didn't sugarcoat a thing. Told him what happened, what Miranda pulled, what I found in the contract. He listened without interrupting, then asked, "Do you have a copy?" I'm looking at it. Send it, all of it, including the addendum. I fired the files off while he waited. Less than a minute later, he whistled into the phone. Well, damn, he said. That clause is airtight. Was Barry Caldwell really the one who signed off on it? Yup, before he left. He even walked me through it. Then they're in breach, Celia. Big time. I stared at the glowing PDF like it had just grown teeth. They copied my system and locked me out. And if they launch without your authorization, that's corporate misuse of protected IP. You could stop them cold. My chest tightened. What do I do? He paused. I could hear him clicking through the docs. You don't reach out. Not yet. Let me build this the right way. Get your files in order. Metadata, drafts, timestamps. We'll respond on our terms, with teeth. I nodded even though he couldn't see me. I can do that. Good, stay quiet, be smart. You're not out, you're just getting into position. I hung up, pulled open another window, and started sorting files into folders. Drafts, notes, screenshots. Miranda thought she wiped me off the board. She didn't realize I was the one who built the damn table. I was knee-deep in folder tags and metadata snapshots when my phone buzzed on the desk. I didn't recognize the number, but I picked up anyway. Celia, it's Janelle. My mind flipped through faces. Junior planner, sharp, fresh out of rice. Kept her head down, always stayed late. I'm not supposed to call you, she whispered, but you need to know. Everything's falling apart. I sat up straight. What do you mean? They're in the middle of the new client pitch, the big one. The interactive platform isn't working. None of the demos are responding. Miranda's panicking. Did they launch the interface? They tried. The whole thing froze. Now she's saying you booby-trapped the files, that you set it to crash if they used it without you. I laughed once, hard and flat. Of course she is. She's yelling at IT like it's their fault. It's chaos. Good, I said before I could stop myself. She doesn't know what she's doing. Janelle lowered her voice even more. I didn't believe her. I told her you weren't that kind of person. I didn't say anything. She's losing control, Celia. Like, visibly. I hung up without saying goodbye, pulled up the internal system logs, and opened the activity history. Password-protected folders, back-end access records. Every single interaction was time-stamped and archived. I'd built that in months ago, not for revenge, but to keep the system clean. Then I saw it. Saturday, 11:43 p.m. User, Miranda K. Action full download of directory. Down, CX rebrand, JA rollout final. Same weekend I'd been finalizing the authentication protocol, I clicked deeper into the log. She hadn't just opened the folder, she'd ripped every core file into a new local copy. Structure, templates, data scaffolds. She took the whole thing, probably thought she could just slap her name on it and flip the switch. She didn't know about the failsafe. I opened the code index and found it exactly where I left it. Auth protocol _ L2. A simple, silent trigger. It scanned for a digital signature embedded in the rollout file, tied to my work account. Without it, the system stalled in demo mode. No full launch, no transitions, no client immersion. It wasn't sabotage, it was security, and Miranda never even saw it. I leaned back in my chair and stared at the screen. My lips curled up before I realized I was smiling. First time I'd smiled since that lobby, because now I knew she couldn't use the system without me. She could rant, deflect, accuse, but she didn't understand the mechanics. She only saw the gloss, the interface, not the spine I built underneath it. The house looked fine from the outside, but she'd yanked out the foundation, and now it was crumbling in real time. I clicked open the real rollout guide, the one she probably didn't even realize had a technical appendix. 8 pages of step-by-step activation, error overrides, and back-end scripts. All authored by me, all tied to the protocol she'd triggered without understanding it. I kept reading through the crash logs, noting where it froze, where the dummy files kicked in instead of the real ones. This wasn't a bug. It was proof. I opened a fresh doc and started typing. Notes, pull quotes, screenshots. I was going to send it all to Brandon, but first, I paused, sat back, let it sink in. Miranda had stolen my work, erased my name, tried to run with something she didn't build, and it blew up in her face. Because I'd built it too well. That smile, it stayed. I hadn't just protected my work. I'd left a trap she walked right into, and now, for the first time since she humiliated me in front of the entire team, I held every single card. I walked into Brandon's office with a flash drive in my jacket pocket and zero appetite for small talk. He looked up from his laptop and motioned me in. You bring the logs? I handed him the drive. Every system file, metadata, download trail, the whole mess. He plugged it in and started flipping through folders while I dropped into the seat across from him. This is clean, he said. You documented everything? Like a paranoid maniac, he smirked. Smart. I leaned forward, elbows on my knees. So what do we do? He sat back, interlocked his fingers, and looked at me like we were playing chess, not business. We make it clear you own this system. We show the clause, we show the logs, but we don't swing a bat. I raised an eyebrow. You saying we play nice? I'm saying we give them a choice. You offer to collaborate, under new terms. No threats, no demands in bold red font, just facts. I didn't love it, but I got it. He opened a new doc and started typing. Tone needs to be professional, confident. You're not asking for anything. You're presenting reality. He looked at me. What do you want out of this? I didn't even blink. 3 things. 1, back pay and licensing fees for my IP. 2, public credit as the original architect of the system. And number 3, he asked, Miranda, I want her exposed. I want them to see exactly what she did. He nodded slowly. We can thread it. Let the documentation speak for itself. I watched him draft the email. Calm, razor sharp, polite enough to pass corporate filters, but laced with precision. He embedded the contract scan, the clause about implementation rights, the server logs showing Miranda's downloads before the crash. Subject line, regarding IP use and strategic collaboration opportunity. This works, he said. It makes them come to you. They'll realize fast they need you to fix what she broke. I crossed my arms. And when they ask why the tool crashed, we don't answer unless they ask. When they do, we show how the full version requires your sign-off. Just like the clause says, no malice, just protection. I breathed out through my nose. I want her cornered, Brandon, not publicly embarrassed. Just undeniable. That's the goal. Let the board connect the dots. We give them facts and let them ask the right questions. I nodded once. Send it. He hit send. Just like that, it was in their inbox. 10 minutes later, his phone buzzed. He checked it. They want an emergency board meeting. Tomorrow. In person. I didn't flinch. Good. He looked at me. You ready for this? I pulled the flash drive from the desk, slipped it back into my pocket. She fired me in front of the whole office. He smiled. Then tomorrow, we flipped the script. The elevator doors opened, and I stepped back into the same lobby where I'd handed over my badge 5 days ago. But this time, I wasn't soaked, I wasn't shaking, and I wasn't alone. Brandon walked beside me in a charcoal suit and no smile. The receptionist looked up, confused. I didn't acknowledge her. We followed the sign taped to the glass wall. Executive Conference, Level 3. We walked in, and the tension hit like heat. Everyone was already seated. Board members, senior managers, and 2 people I didn't recognize in dark suits with glossy name badges. Parent company, brass. And Miranda, sitting at the head of the table, trying not to look like she was cornered. Her blazer was sharp, lipstick flawless, but her hand kept twitching against the water glass. When she saw me, her eyes narrowed. You weren't invited to this, Brandon answered before I could. Actually, she was. Your legal team requested a meeting regarding proprietary system failure. That's what this is, correct? A VP from the parent company, Walter something, nodded. We've reviewed the preliminary claim you submitted, Mr. Klein. We'd like to hear your side. Miranda leaned in, voice clipped. We were in the middle of a major pitch when the tool glitched. My team believes Celia installed a malicious lockout after termination. Brandon didn't even blink. Actually, it's a security protocol embedded in the platform, one that requires her digital authorization to activate full functionality, as outlined in this contract clause, signed and approved by Barry Caldwell during her original hire. He passed printed copies of the addendum around the table like playing cards. I stayed silent. Calm. Let the paper do the talking first. Miranda scoffed. That clause is outdated. Barry retired years ago. It's irrelevant. One of the executives, a woman named Denise, flipped to the second page. But the clause isn't voided anywhere. It's still binding. And it clearly states implementation requires Celia's consent. I spoke up, steady. The system you tried to launch is only a partial version. Without final verification, it stalls automatically. Not because of sabotage, because that's how I designed it. Walter looked at me. So you created the framework? Yes, from start to finish. The rollout files, immersive triggers, and even the transition states. I built the platform and programmed the layers beneath it. Miranda cut in fast. That's not true. I led the experiential strategy. I oversaw architecture. She assisted on back-end development. Brandon leaned forward. Then how do you explain the metadata logs showing you downloaded the entire system directory the night before launch? Silence. One of the IT directors looked up from the printed logs. These match what our servers show. There's no trace of Miranda's account in the system until that weekend. No edits, no builds, just a full download. Miranda's voice sharpened. You're telling me I don't know my own system? I'm telling you, I said, eyes locked on hers, that you claim the system didn't have a strategy guide. She opened her mouth, but I pulled the hard copy from my folder and slid it across the table. Page 23, section headers, transition cadence, and brand psychology patterning, all authored by me, logged, time-stamped. The room went dead quiet. Denise picked up the guide, flipping through it fast. This is detailed. Walter leaned in. Why would you claim this didn't exist? Miranda sat back, jaw tight. Because I didn't see that version. Or, Brandon said, because she removed Celia before the final phase and assumed no one would question her. Someone near the end of the table muttered, Jesus Christ. I stayed still, hands folded, heart steady. Walter looked at me. Would you be willing to return under revised leadership structure? Miranda bolted upright. Wait, what? We need this campaign stabilized. She clearly understands the system better than anyone. Are you seriously considering putting her back in charge? Denise cut in, firm. At the very least, we need her re-engaged. The current situation is unsustainable. Miranda's face hardened. You're making a mistake? I met her eyes. That makes two of us. No one laughed. No one blinked. Brandon sat back, calm as ever. You've seen the documents, the logs, the original clause. If you want a functional campaign, Celia's your path forward. Walter nodded. We'll discuss reinstatement options internally. Brandon stood. We'll await your response, promptly. Miranda didn't stand. She didn't speak. She just stared straight ahead, face frozen. I turned without a word and walked out. We didn't even make it to the parking lot before Brandon's phone buzzed again. He checked the screen, then turned to me. They want you back upstairs. I didn't ask why. I just turned around and walked toward the elevators. This time, when the conference room door opened, Miranda wasn't at the head of the table. She was pacing in the corner, arms folded so tight her knuckles were white. The rest of the board was seated, and the two execs from the parent company, Walter and Denise, were both looking straight at me. Walter gestured. Let's sit. We'd like to hear your terms. I didn't hesitate. I'll come back under 3 conditions. Miranda scoffed loud, but no one looked at her. 1, I said. I'm reinstated in a new position, head of brand strategy and innovation, not under Miranda, parallel with direct access to the parent company. Denise nodded slowly, taking notes. 2, full public credit. Every document, every release, every press mention. My name is tied to the platform I built. Miranda stepped forward, already boiling. This is ridiculous. She's grandstanding. This wasn't a solo act. I ignored her. 3, I want final implementation authority. No middleman approvals. If you want the system to work, I call the shots on how it's used. Brandon added, that's not a demand. It's a legal requirement based on the existing clause. Walter turned to Miranda. Anything you'd like to say, Miranda? Her face was red now. Yeah, this is a mistake. She doesn't know how to lead. She's good at systems, not people. She's not executive material. I looked at her and said it clean, without flinching. We'll let the work speak for itself. Silence. Then Denise turned to the rest of the board. Thoughts? There were a few quiet nods. One of the strategy officers spoke up. We need this fixed. Celia's earned it. She built it. We say yes. Walter leaned back. Then it's settled. Celia, you'll receive a new contract by end of day. He turned to Miranda. As for your role, your position in its current form is unsustainable. We'd like to transition you to a client-facing support role, effective immediately. What? She snapped. You're sidelining me? You'll retain title, salary, and responsibilities aligned with client service, but campaign ownership is shifting. She stood there for a second like she couldn't move. Then she grabbed her tablet off the table, looked dead at me, and hissed, You won't last. You don't have what it takes to lead people. I didn't flinch. I didn't argue. I'd already said what needed to be said. She stormed out without waiting for a response, heels loud against the tile. Walter turned back to me. Congratulations. I nodded once. Let's get to work. I was back at the firm the next morning. No welcome sign, no awkward apology parade. Just a new badge, a new title, and an empty office with a view of downtown Austin. I didn't care about the plants or the glass desk. I opened my laptop and got to work. The parent company team looped me in fast. Walter, Denise, and their project managers were all eager to move. They set up daily check-ins, strategy calls, live integration sessions. And every time someone asked a question about how the system was supposed to work, it was my voice they waited on. Not Miranda's. She tried, of course. She dropped into calls she wasn't on. Forwarded suggestions through lower staff. Even replied all on strategy threads with lines like, For consistency, let's keep the original direction. I didn't respond. Didn't need to. Denise would chime in with, We'll defer to Celia on this, every single time. And the more it happened, the more the team around us started to shift. Not just compliance, respect. People actually started listening, not just waiting to talk. They leaned in when I walked into the room. Even the quiet ones started reaching out. Janelle found me in the break room one afternoon, eyes wide, coffee in hand. Everyone's talking, she said. Like, in a good way. I raised an eyebrow. About what? You. They're calling you the real architect now. I heard it twice in the elevator this morning. I almost laughed. Took long enough. You earned it. Then she paused. You building anything new yet? I didn't answer right away. That night, I went home, pushed the laptop aside, and pulled out a canvas that had been collecting dust for 2 years. Painting used to be the one place I could think clearly, but I'd buried it somewhere between overnight rollout meetings and fixing Miranda's half-baked ideas. Now, I stood in my kitchen with a brush in one hand and a glass of Cabernet in the other. I dipped deep into the blue, dragged it across the canvas, slow and wide. No sketches, no client direction, just color. By the time I looked at the clock, it was 2 a.m. I wasn't exhausted, I was grounded. They held the announcement event in the main atrium. High ceilings, big glass windows, catered coffee, and fake smiles floating everywhere. I stood just behind the curtain, holding a folded index card in my hand, even though I knew I wouldn't need it. Denise gave me a quick nod from across the stage. Walter was already at the mic. "Thank you all for joining us," he said, smooth and practiced. Today's announcement marks a major shift, not just in structure, but in how we value contribution across our brand strategy group. I scanned the crowd. Most of the office was here, some standing, some sitting. Phones out, a few people whispering. Miranda stood on the far edge, arms crossed, fake smiling through gritted teeth, still wearing red, still trying to own the room. Walter kept going. After careful review, we're proud to formally introduce a new leadership model that reflects both innovation and integrity. Then he said it. "I'd like to announce Celia Hartman as our new head of brand strategy and innovation." Applause broke out. It wasn't fake. Some of it came from the people who used to avoid eye contact with me in the hallway. I walked out slow, calm. My heels echoed off the floor. Miranda didn't move. Walter shook my hand. "Congratulations." I took the mic, didn't bother unfolding the card. "Thanks," I said, not just for the title, but for seeing what matters. I looked at the crowd, at Janelle in the back, at Rick by the side wall. When this system was first developed, it didn't come from a place of ego. It came from late nights, team sessions, a lot of coffee, and a ridiculous amount of feedback from real people doing real work. A few heads nodded. Someone near the front muttered, "Yeah, it did." I smiled, just a little. We've seen what happens when credit is hoarded instead of shared. That ends today. I paused, took a breath. This team built something brilliant, and going forward, we build more, but we do it together, and we make damn sure the people doing the work get the credit. The clapping came fast this time, louder, real. I stepped back, handed the mic to Denise, and walked off stage without looking back. But I saw her. Miranda stood there, frozen, face unreadable. Then, quietly, she turned and slipped out through the side hallway. No storming out, no final words, just silence. I didn't follow. I didn't need to. The power she used to carry with a smirk and a click of heels was gone, drained out in front of everyone. And not because I shouted louder, because the truth rose up and did exactly what it was supposed to do. It stood on its own. After the event, I stayed behind while people cleared out. Rick caught my eye, held up his phone, and mouthed, "Hell yes!" Even the CFO gave me a nod before ducking into the elevator. I stood by the back wall, finally still. The noise had settled, my voice didn't shake, my hands didn't twitch. The weight I'd been dragging for years, it was gone. Not because I got revenge, not because I humiliated anyone, because I stayed in the fight long enough to let the truth take center stage. And for once, it did. I was back in my office, lights dimmed, window cracked just enough to let the sound of traffic buzz through. My inbox was cleared, my calendar was full, and for the first time in years, none of it made my stomach twist. My phone lit up. "Brandon? All done," he said. "Legal confirmed everything. You've got joint IP ownership, licensing control, and official creator credit on all system documentation." I let out a slow breath. "Thanks. You earned it." After we hung up, I opened the bottom drawer of my desk. Tucked inside was an old firm badge, my first one. Faded photo, cracked plastic. Still had the same serious look on my face, like I hadn't figured out yet that I was playing a longer game than I realized. Taped to the back was a yellow sticky note, folded once. "Told you they'd need you." Rick, I smiled. Same messy handwriting from the front desk label printer. A second later, my phone buzzed again. Unknown number. "Office suits you, no name, no signature." But I didn't need one. I could guess. And whoever it was, they weren't wrong. I tossed the badge in my drawer, stood, and grabbed my bag. Just as I slung it over my shoulder, a new email popped up on my laptop. From Miranda Kellis. Subject: Don't get comfortable. I didn't even open it. Just click delete and watched it disappear. No drama, no reply, just gone. I walked out, past the glass conference rooms, past the spot where I used to take calls standing up because I didn't have an office of my own, past the place where Miranda fired me like I was a paper plate. On the way to the elevator, I paused by my old desk. Same monitor, same pen holder. Still had a scratch on the corner from where I dropped a tablet once during rollout week. I rested my hand on the edge for a second, then turned away. This wasn't revenge. I didn't come back to gloat. I came back to prove what I'd known all along. I built the work, the real work. And in the end, that was louder than anything Miranda ever said or tried to steal. Let her keep whispering. I'd rather let the work speak for itself.